Good evening, sports fans. This is the Radulich and Broadcasting Network premier podcast. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, we are providing alternative coverage for Oleksandr Usyk versus Chazz Witherspoon. Chazz Witherspoon is a last-minute replacement for Tyrone Spong. And this, the big thing about this card is this is Oleksandr Usyk's debut at heavyweight. He was the linear cruiserweight champion. He gave up those belts in order to move to heavyweight. So it's pretty exciting. The last time he fought at cruiserweight was November of 2018 in Manchester, England. He fought Tony Bellew, and he won by KO in the 8th round. Joining me tonight, another last-minute replacement, because my original broadcast partner found himself too ill to do coverage tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, fresh off his coverage of Joanna Champion versus the karate hottie Michelle Waterson, right here in my neck of the woods, Tampa, Florida. It's your friend and mine, Robert Winfree. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing all right. Hoping Usyk just murders this guy in enough time for me to get to watch Demetrius Johnson fight on one in about 20 minutes.
What a time we're living in to be a combat sports fan, right?
Hey, if you were so inclined, you could have stayed up to an ungodly hour watching Ryzen technically early this morning. And that poor card. They had 2 intermissions. Mm-hmm. One of them was about 45 minutes. The other was 2 hours.
Oh, God. What the hell were they doing? Trying to find Fedor as he was hiding under a rock?
They had a lot of fights end very quickly. But partially. Also, they were in a part of Japan that's been in danger of being hit by a hurricane, I think. Either that or they're out of the path and the one event is in the path of it. I think that's the way it is. But yeah, that was just a badly paced event. It was so bad. There were some good fights. There were some really good fights. Patricio Freire. Patricio or Patricio, I can never remember. One of the Pitbull brothers, the good one. Knocked out Tetsuya. I think you're right. Knocked out Tetsuya Kawajiri with a flying knee. The dude who just sparked Horiguchi in the first round knocked out somebody. Hamderlei Siohi Ham done murdered a chick. So there was some good stuff.
Now this was just for fun and profit. You weren't covering it, right?
I have seen highlights. I did not stay up that late for it. I'm just not going to do that to myself.
Well, I don't know when this fight on Eastern Standard Time took place, but I slept till 8 o'clock this morning and was at work by 9. So guess who wasn't watching Ryzen? But hey, December, I think, 29th, I think it is, or 20th, whenever that Bellator card in Japan is, Fat Fedor versus Fat Rampage. I'm there all night long, baby. Woo!
God, you've seen the fight poster where they just took a Rampage photo from 10 years ago?
Yeah, they totally took his fucking pride photo.
Yeah, that is so. Then you see them in the press release photo when they do the press conference, and Rampage always looks like he's standing about 4 feet closer to the camera than Fedor.
And
he's
was
just
he
so
sort
fat.
of flapping his arm and is going, "Now I'm gonna sing a song for you, na na na. Rampage is having a good time, hey hey hey, na na na."
Wow. Okay. Hey, it's Fat Quentin. Anyway, about this fight, since you guys don't want to hear us wax lyrical and silly. Mark
tells you a lot about this fight when our opening bit is no commentary whatsoever about the fight, just us riffing on other combat sports.
Well, they're finally getting to the point where fighters are walking to the ring. So, Oleksandr Usyk is undefeated, was the lineal cruiserweight champion. I believe he held every major cruiserweight title.
That is correct.
At one point or another. This is his heavyweight debut, and in all likelihood sets up a fight between him and the winner of Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr. because his status as not only the cruiserweight champion of the world, again, he has all the belts.
Yeah, I believe he was like the super cruiserweight champion.
Yeah, he is the super cruiserweight champion, which means he can become the next mandatory challenger for that particular heavyweight belt if he so chooses. And again, that's not been made official yet, but that is a possibility for him, and I have to imagine is a serious consideration. I mean, in no small part because he's beaten everybody else at cruiserweight.
It'd be weird that they wouldn't set him up with like Kaunaki first. You know, maybe give him a few more of the heavyweight fighters not currently holding a major belt that have fought earlier this year on a primetime network. You know, you had, I mean, the Kaunaki fight was on Fox, as embarrassing as that was.
It's Fox. They're not embarrassed about anything.
This is true. Have you seen SmackDown? Ugh.
Much to my chagrin, yes.
And then, you know, you've got Deontay Wilder is fighting Ortiz. Tyson Fury, I think, is sort of waiting in the wings for that. Plus, he has his toughest contest to date in Saudi Arabia.
Just stop.
Oh, Tyson Fury about to get these hands. Yeah.
Stop. Fury's going to win that. You know Fury's going to win that.
Of course he is. Just like Mayweather beat the Big Show at WrestleMania nuts and futz.
The supreme irony, of course, being that Tyson Fury beating a giant man like Braun Strowman is infinitely more believable.
True.
Okay, so the other thing here, this was supposed to be Usyk against Tyrone Spong, noted kickboxer and occasional MMA fighter making his boxing debut.
Well, you know, hang on about it, because he actually has boxed before. He was get this, I thought it was his boxing debut as well, but that's not necessarily the case. Hang on, let me get this up real quick. He was, in fact, and I believe still currently is, the Latino and WBO Latino heavyweight champion.
Look, if he is still that, it's because they retired the belt in the division.
He's 14-0 in boxing.
I would need more confirmation of that. And that's not anything about you, but there's a lot of weirdness. I mean, MMA fighter John Fitch should actually have one more win on his official record than he does, because the promoter, he fought in Mexico, and the promoter, when recording, calling in to record the results, his accent was so heavy the guy on the other side recorded it as John Fish. You can actually find John Fish on ShareDog as 1-0 undefeated.
Sweet. Well,
anyway,
according to his Wikipedia page, Tyrone Spong is a 14-0. Is 14-0 in boxing. He last fought August in Mexico, and he had a TKO in the second round against Jason Minda.
What year was this?
Earlier this year, and he fought three times in 2018.
I would need some extra confirmation of that, but okay, so Spong's first fight against an actual opponent, if nothing else.
All these poor men that you're just blowing off, my goodness.
Look, there's a lot of just ham and eggers in combat sports, okay?
It's so funny, he either fights in, Mexico or Florida. I'm sorry, there's a few here in the DR, and oh my goodness, he actually fought his first two fights in Germany.
Yeah.
So it's either anywhere else in the world and Florida. Tyrone Spong. Chazz Witherspoon.
Anyway, yeah, Spong fails a drug test, and which is funny because VADA and boxing. And rather than just scrap and reschedule the fight, which is normally what they do, but Usyk does want to get this out of the way, potentially make his big statement, claim that he stake his claim to the next shot at the winner of Joshua and Ruiz Jr. They found a replacement in the form of Chazz with two Z's, Witherspoon, an older, declining heavyweight who was never all that good to begin with.
He is, in fact, on a 8-fight win streak, however.
And if you can tell me any of the people he beat without looking at it.
Well, I was going to say, one of them has a Wikipedia leak. One.
So, 5 cab drivers and someone whose mother really likes him.
He did, however, have a loss in 2012 to Seth Mayhem Mitchell.
Yeah, again, look, Witherspoon is not. He's a, journeyman heavyweight. He's what, 33-9, I think, 33 and.
He has 39 wins, 29 by knockout, and 3 losses. He's lost to Seth Mayhem Mitchell in 2012, Tony the Tiger Thompson in 2009, and Chris Arreola. Hey, we just saw him fight in 2008.
If you want to call it that. Yeah, again, he's just a good a journeyman heavyweight fighter, and I don't mean that derogatorily. There's a lot of fighters who never even become decent journeymen.
Yeah, he seems to mostly, as of 2014, he seems to mostly fight in Jersey.
Yeah, it's not a knock on him, but he's on the downside of his career.
Hey, he's a belt holder. He is currently the IBS champion. I don't know if that really stands for irritable bowel syndrome or not. And
Jersey. If he's fighting in Jersey, probably.
And the American Boxing Association champion. So there you go. See, he's got belts. There's belts here.
It's boxing, Mark. Anyone who's not a complete club-level fighter probably has a belt.
I was going to say, I think Pat Mullen has a belt.
If he doesn't, he should.
So what can we expect from Oleksandr Usyk versus journeyman fighter Chazz Witherspoon?
Well, Usyk is he comes from, he's Ukrainian by nationality, and he comes from that kind of, again, that Slavic, Eastern European style of boxing. He's a good technician. He goes to the body. He goes to the body, goes to the head, fires in combination, likes his infighting. I apologize if he comes out and does something completely different, because it's been a while since I've really studied his tape. But he's a very, very exciting fighter. He's a marauder. I mean, his run through the cruiserweight Grand Prix or whatever that they did a couple of years ago, might have been 17 or 18, was a thing of beauty. He just murdered people. So he's a very fan-friendly style of fighter. Witherspoon, by contrast, he seemed to recall being, again, just kind of your typical heavyweight.
You mean his shorts are going to fall down? You're going to see his ass crack?
He's probably going to be petitioning to fight in the T-shirt.
And that kind of analysis is what you can expect here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network.
Hey, part of it, okay? Look, I do try to get technical. There's just, again, it's been a while since I've really kind of delved into Usyk's footage.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some of his fights, but, again, like, really watching them and then actually studying them to try and pick up nuance and habits and whatnot is a different endeavor that I just haven't really gotten into with him.
All right, they're still introducing the fighters here, so give me 50 words or less on your Joanna champion versus Michelle Waterson.
Pretty good card, actually.
They killed a guy tonight. They killed a guy in boxing, then they killed a guy in MMA, as if they were competing for how many bodies they could drop and how good and how well they could drop them.
To let you know how bad that fight was, the referee was pulled from all officiating duties for the rest of the evening.
Probably because they suspected he was high.
By the Florida Commission.
Ugh.
Like, that's how bad it is, as we see Demetrius Johnson make his way out for his one fight. Again, it was a pretty good card. Again, the main event, Joanna Jędrzejczyk wins via unanimous decision. Pretty good fight. Pretty typical Joanna stuff. Cub Swanson and Kron Gracie had a slugfest, to the surprise of a few people. Wound up being both a damning indictment of Kron Gracie's striking technique and Cub Swanson's striking defense. What else did we have?
Kron ended up winning, right? As did Joanna?
No, Cub won.
Oh, Cub won. Really? Wow.
Yeah, just unanimous decision. 30-27 across the board.
I was going to say, just when you think Cub is down, he comes back with another crazy victory.
Wow. Look, a veteran fighter who, despite being on the downside of his career, is well-rounded and tough, beats a very one-dimensional fighter. Who'd have thought?
Look,
who's like 7 fights into his career.
Do you know how many times Cub Swanson's been one fight away from being cut from the UFC, and he still manages to win? Here,
a lot.
That's like his thing, right? All right, here we go. Round one. And Chazz looking very alive here. He's coming in. He's sitting behind his jab. A lot of movement from Usyk to start off. He's shifting his weight. He's got his guard up. So far, these two look like boxers.
Again, Usyk comes from the cruiserweight division primarily, which is a division that favors more technique and ability than just kind of the raw, bruising power of heavyweight.
And I'd like to go ahead and point out that, there was a pretty decent uppercut there from Witherspoon. Witherspoon's shorts are still around his waist.
We're all grateful for that. And again, unlike most heavyweights and some that we've seen recently, you can see Witherspoon's trunks actually do cover his belly button because he's not a giant tub of lard.
Yeah, he's actually in relatively decent shape, this fella.
Yeah, it's a solid enough. He's a good journeyman heavyweight. He's not, some schlub they pulled out of the stands.
What's funny about that though is we're making these jokes because of an undercard heavyweight fight. It was like a co-main event of a PBC card, where literally one guy looked like they pulled him from the stands, and then he couldn't keep his. They stopped the fight long enough to pull his shorts up because they were literally below his ass crack.
Yeah. And I know some people who say that the worst heavyweight fight they've ever seen was Tyson Fury and Vladimir Klitschko. I envy you, your ignorance, you sweet summer child. You can also see kind of going on here, Usyk's southpaw stance, because he is a southpaw and has been for his entire career, is something that Witherspoon's, working around again. Witherspoon has fought a lot of guys. He's fought southpaws before, but it does take a period of adjustment. Both men probing a bit with the jab more than anything else.
I like Usyk's footwork so far. He's on his toes. He's moving around. He's shifting his weight. Good stuff here.
You can see a lot of the turning that he's going to be doing. A little bit ago, he ducked a right hook from Witherspoon, turned and landed a left to the body. You're going to see a fair bit of that, I imagine. He is much more fleet of foot, much more technical. And Witherspoon's going to have a good couple of rounds, but is, again, a heavyweight taking the fight on last minute. He's going to try to overwhelm Usyk with power early rather than play any kind of long game.
Well, Usyk seems to be employing the strategy of be fleet of foot in the beginning, make this guy miss you, tire him out, and then start to take over midway through the fight, which is a good strategy, especially, again, as you said, for a heavyweight taking this on 1 week's notice.
Yeah, I imagine if he were fighting Tyrone Spong, he would be employing a slightly different strategy, but you work with who's in front of you.
Indeed.
Witherspoon also with the very, very long fight trunks.
Yeah, he's. I think those trunks he got from Walmart and the basketball shorts section.
No, they have his name. They have his name actually embroidered on the back.
Terrific.
But again, this guy just fights a lot and fights at a lower than world class level. So you keep gear that will work for you on short notice if necessary, and that can work for you. A lot of movement from Usyk throughout that first round. Could probably go 10-9 either way. I wouldn't object to a 10-10. I actually think I am going to lean towards Usyk. Again, he made Witherspoon miss a couple of times, landed some good counters.
This is supposed to be a showcase fight for Usyk, so it's 10-9 Usyk.
Well, look, Usyk is not Canelo, okay?
Yeah, but it's the zone.
Okay, it is DAZN, that's true.
You know what DAZN rhymes with, right?
No.
Calzone.
I don't know what that joke's supposed to be.
I've been doing that all month.
And I still don't know what it's supposed to be.
It's just me having fun with words. All right, we are in round 2 here, and once
DAZN
again,
also rhymes with phone, as in phone in the results.
Canelo, 120-0.
After the first.
So more of the same here from these two. Witherspoon, very flat-footed. He's definitely focusing on planting his feet and delivering power to Usyk. Usyk still doing a lot of moving around. I mean, he's not running away from the guy, but he's definitely making him miss him.
Yeah, Witherspoon also, again, you mentioned trying to generate power. He's also working on energy conservation. And, again, this is not my usual dig at heavyweights. Any fight you take on that short of notice, energy conservation and management is a big part of what you'd have to do when you get into the fight. And you can see Usyk, again, moving, slipping the jab, landing some counters. He knows he has a lot to lose in this fight and is going to... how do I say this? He's not going to fight overly conservatively because that's not his style, but he's not going to be very reckless and give someone who would be scoring arguably the biggest win of their career, certainly among the highest profile, at his expense. He's going to fight smart. He's going to move. He's going to jab. He's going to make Witherspoon miss. He's going to make him move. He's going to tire him out, and then he's going to take over as the fight goes on. This is a 12-round fight. There's no need to burn yourself out in the first. You see both men kind of clashing and pawing with their lead hands a lot. This is a frequent occurrence when you get opposite stance fighters.
I'll see Usyk kind of feinting, trying to make Witherspoon bite on a feint and maybe find an opening and maybe go to the body.
Yeah, he's invested already in this fight, not heavily into body work, but he is not at all shy about using it. He's dug to the body a couple of times depending on the angle he takes and what Witherspoon's defensive reaction is to missing. And again, if you're worried about a guy, if you have questions about a guy's gas tank, test it. Hit him in the body.
Earlier in the evening, one of the fighters, that was Martinez, took a body shot. And it floored him, and he didn't knock him out or anything, but he took a hard one in the body, and his legs just came right out from under him, and he fell kind of in a seated position.
Yeah, that happens. If you get hit really hard, you wind up on your butt. Especially if you get, again, some of it's if it's really hard, some of it is if you're not expecting it. A lot of times you'll see fighters, if they take a hard one, they'll go to a knee kind of preemptively so they don't get hit again, to give themselves as much time to recover as possible. Usyk, again, has Witherspoon more along the ropes. The superior ring generalship and footwork of Usyk definitely on display thus far. Very good defensive posture as well. Witherspoon is swinging at him, but he's either missing outright or just hitting the gloves or the shoulders.
Witherspoon, I don't like the way, and this might be a picayune detail here, but Witherspoon kind of slouched in the corner.
Yeah, that's kind of his seated position. I noticed after the first round, he does the old high schooler kind of slouch. Arms on the ropes, just kind of... which is not a good posture for recovery. You want to be upright. Yeah. You don't want to constrict your lungs. You want to give them as much room to do their work as possible.
Yeah, you shouldn't be sitting in the corner in between rounds of a boxing match like I do on the couch watching television.
Yeah, you should not sit in between rounds in a boxing match like people who are watching your boxing match. It's not a good thing. So Usyk, everything seems to be well in hand for Usyk so far, kind of going according to the game plan he's laid out. He's moving well, sticking and moving, not taking damage, and making Witherspoon miss and just kind of feel uncomfortable within the confines of the ring.
I would probably lean 10-9 again for Usyk in that last round. It's not like I saw Witherspoon really land anything of consequence that I could tell.
Yeah, that round a bit clearer for Usyk. He was much better defensively and a little bit more active offensively than round one.
So Witherspoon's trying to make something happen now. He's doing some lunging punches. He went to the body on Usyk, and Usyk could have danced away from him. He's definitely trying to commit more, make something happen for himself. I think he's starting to see, he's starting to see where this fight's going, and he was like, well, I better make a stand now because later on I'm not going to have legs or arms left.
Well, it's also a bit of, okay, if I keep doing what I'm doing, this is how it's going to go, so I better stop doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. And
credit to him for it. And a lot of guys don't do that, but his aggression is giving Usyk opportunities to land his straight left, which he's done a few times now in this round. Just threading the needle between the defensive guard, moving very well. He's got a good feel for the range and distance. And, again, he's much more fleet of foot than Witherspoon, and that is giving Witherspoon offensively fits.
Witherspoon trying to find a home for that right to the body, but it's not working out for him.
Yeah, Usyk is just too mobile for him right now. He keeps swinging and reaching, but Usyk is always kind of in motion, so he's not able to really find a home. And he's not moving his feet well enough to kind of get up to him or cut him off. He's swinging from way outside, which is, again, thus far, not a very effective technique. And Usyk is backing him into the ropes, into the corner, jabbing him to the body, avoiding counters, just kind of doing Usyk things. Good one, too, there. Yeah, Witherspoon, I think, has kind of realized he's got a couple of rounds to kind of make his stand if he's going to make it. Otherwise, after that point, he's kind of done. And Usyk is reacting in kind. He's very much mirroring what Witherspoon is doing in that, okay, if you're going to give me more, I'm going to take more. If you're going to give me less, I'm happy to take less and still win, because he is.
Usyk is a lot faster than Witherspoon. So what happens is Witherspoon lunges and reaches, and he doesn't pull back fast enough to stop Usyk from, as you said before, threading the needle, countering, and scoring a hit.
Yeah, Usyk also good about going to both the body and head with his straight left, keeping Witherspoon guessing defensively to the degree that he can even recover his posture in time and actually defend. And I've got Usyk up 3 rounds at this point. Witherspoon clearly fading, Usyk clearly coming on strong, and again, about as expected, really. That was a good left Usyk landed to punctuate the round.
All right, round 4, and we see Witherspoon going on the attack. As you indicated before, it's just, unfortunately for Witherspoon, I mean, he's the punches are touching Usyk, but they're only getting the arms and shoulders in most cases.
Yeah, Usyk, a very skilled fighter. Watch his hand position as he punches. His hands come back to where they started from, basically, which is what you want to do. He's a very well-schooled fighter.
Well, earlier in the night, I sent you a link to the opening fight, and my wife and I were very excited because the guy's last name was Day, which is my wife's maiden name, and he was from Freeport, Long Island. So, 2 random ham and eggers here, and one of them had things we could cheer for, and this poor bastard got hit so hard that he started actively trying to run away from his opponent, who then hit him in the temple, knocked him clean out, and then he fell back and hit his head. They put him on a stretcher, carried him to the ambulance, where he proceeded to have seizures on the way to the hospital.
Hopefully he doesn't die.
Yeah,
just
hopefully.
Throwing it out there.
Yes, we'd like all Day to remain alive. But the point of me bringing that up is there you see the dangers, and they say you must protect yourself at all times. And speaking of which, Usyk now starting to pick up the pace of his attack. Witherspoon covered up nice, but Usyk just threw a flurry at him.
Usyk is on the hunt at this point. He knows he's got a fading opponent. And, again, this is kind of his showcase to then stake a claim and say, hey, I can contractually say I am the next heavyweight. I'm the next in line for the heavyweight champion. And he doesn't want it's kind of a humdrum performance necessarily. If he's going to make that claim, he can mandate it contractually in some respects, but that's also a bit iffy depending on, boxing being boxing.
Yeah, but as we said at the top of the show, I would prefer him to get 1 or 2 more maybe PBC primetime Fox fights before they throw him in the ring with one of the big title holders, whether it be Tyson, Deontay, or whoever ends up winning between Andrew Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua.
I mean, ideally, yes, but at the same time, I'm not sure how the timing for that works out. If he takes, 3 more heavyweight fights, I don't know if he maintains his status as super cruiserweight champion and could then still cash that in.
No, I would imagine I was under the impression he gave those belts up. Like at this point, he may be the lineal champion, which is a term getting bandied about a lot these days. But I don't think he actually has the belts anymore. I think in order for him to have made the jump to heavyweight, he had to give them up.
And again, I do wonder about the timing of that, whether or not there's a specific window that he has to say he's going to invoke that ability to jump up and challenge for the belt or not. But he is looking pretty good in his heavyweight debut. I mean, again, whether this was Spong or Witherspoon, I feel confident stating, not exactly the highest level of heavyweight opposition he could face. I mean, we speculated at the time that Usyk and Spong even was just such a weird fight.
Yeah, that one was definitely... I mean, I knew Tyrone Spong from his time as a kickboxer, and then he was one of the guys they were trying to build the World Series of Fighting around, but, things just did not work out.
He broke his leg in a kickboxing bout.
Yeah,
that was kind of that.
I think he fought against Gokhan Saki, and Gokhan Saki is made of fucking lead.
Sort of. I mean, Saki's been stopped plenty of times. But yeah, Saki checked a leg kick, and Spong's leg broke in half.
And Anderson Silva yelled out, "Ouch!"
For completely different reasons, I'm sure. But
well, the joke is Anderson Silva broke his leg on a check leg kick.
I understand the joke, Mark.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
It's okay. I appreciate you explaining it. Yeah, Witherspoon's posture and everything in between rounds here is not good. He does not look like a happy panda.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure the check that he got from DAZN more than makes up for it. He's like, well, let me go earn my keep.
I mean, again, he is getting paid, so.
I wonder if they're like, here, we're gonna give you a bag of money, and you're gonna get onto this premier DAZN card, but you have to put up one of your belts. Just so Usyk has one going into whatever fight he's got.
I don't even know that the belts he has are like from recognized bodies. Okay, this is less encouraging. You can see Witherspoon looking to try and clinch now, constantly wanting to close distance, and that's never a good sign.
Yeah, he momentarily dropped his hands there, and Usyk nailed him.
Yeah, Usyk has very fast hands. Again,
yes,
benefits of cruiserweights tending to be a bit faster, a bit more precise, even when they move up to heavyweight. I mean, I think among the more famous ones, Evander Holyfield, who moved from cruiserweight up to heavyweight.
See, this is why I'd like to see him fight someone like Deontay Wilder, just to showcase the fact that Deontay Wilder sucks.
Yeah, we all know. Mark, everyone knows.
But if you'll recall, there are people who would make the argument that he's one of the best in the world, and you nearly had an aneurysm.
You can make the argument if you like. It does not hold water. He is one. I am not arguing the man's success. Okay, Deontay Wilder is an incredibly successful heavyweight boxer going right now. That is absolutely true. Has stunning power. If I need someone to get between me and a charging moose, I want Deontay Wilder to punch it. Okay. He's not a very good boxer.
The problem with him fighting a charging moose is he still wouldn't use his reach then.
Well, I mean, the moose at least is charging, so you know.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like he might do a better job if the moose just stood still. Maybe a meandering moose.
No. See, if it was a meandering moose, he'd wind up having to close distance. He likes the charging moose because the moose will close distance for him.
That's true. Hey, make it happen, Showtime. We need Deontay Wilder versus a moose. Do it in Canada.
Yeah, Usyk is starting to run away with this at this point. He's just constantly jabbing and backing Witherspoon into the ropes, hitting him, not getting hit in return. Just really classic, solid boxing fundamentals from Usyk, where Witherspoon is, not. I don't have a better way to say that.
Well, I mean, we said this when we started this podcast, that it was, after a couple of rounds, this guy was going to slow down, get hit more, and you were going to, really start to see Usyk turn it on. I mean, one of our colleagues, Pat Mullen, said, "Oh, he probably murders him in the first few rounds." But this fight has taken a little time to get going. So now we're in round 6, and I think it's going to be if he finishes the fight before it ends, it's probably going to be within the next 3 rounds.
Yeah. Okay, you can see Witherspoon slowing down. We're getting into the 6th round here. And Usyk's won all the rounds.
Usyk is still really light and dynamic on his feet. He's still circling really well. He's kind of skipping around. He's still
what did he weigh in
on his
at?
toes.
What did he weigh in at for this event?
Unless somebody shows up in cosplay, I tend not to pay attention to weigh-ins.
This does not surprise me at all.
What should concern you is the amount of fighters that actually show up in cosplay to weigh-ins, not whether or not I pay attention.
That does not surprise me at all.
Oh, good. Oh, here we go. Good shot to the body there. He followed up with a right hook to the head. Witherspoon didn't like any of it and just started backing up.
The body work immediately starting to pay off here. Usyk he has engaged kill mode at this point.
What I don't understand is why he didn't charge at Witherspoon in the corner. I mean, I guess he figures, I've got this fight well in hand. I don't need to overcommit and possibly make a mistake. But still, Witherspoon was at that point just covering up. He probably could have got this fight stopped.
He could have made a better effort at it. I agree with that. But, if he wants to, if it's a deliberate calculation on his part, then okay. I mean, I'm not sure that I would have done it that way necessarily, but he's the one in the in the ring fighting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the other side of it is I think a lot of promoters and such, say they don't want you to finish the fight too early. They want to see what you can do over a long stretch. So maybe he's, in the back of his mind, he's going, let's string this along for as long as we can, make the people happy.
I imagine something like that. And again, also,
oof.
Whenever you see a guy back into the corner like that, if they're not actively covering up, and Witherspoon was rather nonchalant about backing up, you don't want to give him you don't want to rush and give him the chance to clobber you with something unexpected.
Sure. He hit him with a nasty left there. A good left jab right to the button. Sorry, straight left. Southpaw stance.
Yeah, believe me, I feel your pain on that. Witherspoon's eyes are getting busted up a little bit at this point too. They're starting to swell and discolor. Just again, as expected, really. Usyk just kind of doing Usyk things.
Yep, breaking him down little by little. Ugh, Jesus Christ, get this guy like an ornament or something.
He needs someone to be there. He needs someone there to be his footstool. Like, hey, coach, get down here. Let me put my feet up.
Someone called the Creepers from the Dark Order. They can make him a nice little stool to put his feet on.
I don't understand that reference, but okay.
You haven't been watching any AEW at all?
Nope.
Okay, then.
Don't know why I would.
Boy, are you missing out.
On what exactly?
You could have seen a guy with his hands in his pocket dive through the ropes.
I could, but I don't want to.
You could see a guy get shredded up with paper cuts from actual paper.
Fair enough, I suppose. I mean, look, they're doing fine work, so I've been told. I'm just not interested.
You could have seen one of the guys from Private Parties, who's wrestling in tails, by the way, do 47 dives over the top rope on either side of the rope.
I could have watched Chris Jericho try to get a back elbow over as a finisher.
He's fat.
I could watch Jake Hager's debut and never forget the moment he debuted in AEW. Piss off. He sucked in WWE. Everything post there was terrible, and he still sucks now.
But he's 1-0 in Bellator, so there's that.
2-0, I think.
Oh, good for him. I only knew about the one the night that I think that Fedor fought and lost instantly to like Meathead or somebody.
Yeah, there was that. He had another fight where he fought a meatpacking guy. Literally a guy who works in a meatpacking plant. He cut one of the worst post-fight interviews I've ever heard. His actual quote was, "I am rock hard with emotion. I have an erection."
That's right. I actually remember that. It was embarrassing for everybody.
Yep. God, Usyk just teed off on Witherspoon at the end of that last round. He is going in for the kill.
Yeah, at this point, Witherspoon, much like a cartoon character, has turned into a heavy bag. Though, I say that, but to his credit, man, he's still trying. He's still throwing punches. I mean, they're lungy and they're like Hail Marys, but they're punches.
Also, for those of you MMA fans listening, Demetrius Johnson has just secured the one flyweight Grand Prix championship with a unanimous decision win.
I'm sure it'll look great when I watch it on my DVR.
It might.
I can't believe TNT's showing that. I was telling my wife tonight, I was reading the Nitro book that Eric Bischoff says the only thing that's worth reading when it comes to the Monday Night Wars. And they were talking about how TNT was the drama network, and they wanted to turn TBS into the comedy network, and they just couldn't find a place for wrestling. It didn't fit into their repertoire that they were trying to build. 20 years later, they're begging for wrestling and putting MMA on because no one will watch anything else on that network.
Yeah, they've had a couple of decent scripted shows, I've been told, but nothing I've really engaged in. Oof.
Well, I mean,
body shots by Usyk as he's got Witherspoon along the ropes.
Now he's starting to turn it on. I don't think anything has had the success of like anything on the shows that have been successful on the USA Network or are obviously like HBO or Showtime. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Usyk is now just laying in those lefts, really hammering Witherspoon. Witherspoon doing a decent job of trying to cover up and block, but he's getting tagged pretty hard.
Yeah, he's also only covering up and blocking at this point. It's not a good look for him.
Yeah, he's pawing away at some of Usyk's punches, but he's in survival. Oh God, he looks depressed. He looks like his wife just broke up with him.
If the next round looks like this one did, I think Witherspoon's corner ought to consider stopping it. There's no point to this.
So just to close up, put a punctuation mark on that discussion, it's just amazing that, I mean, look, we can debate the merits of some of their shows that maybe got watched by a few people, but I think overall, television has changed so substantially that you have, Fox throwing money at PBC and the WWE for their live, quote-unquote, sports content, and even TNT it's over.
Speaking of putting a pin in it, Oleksandr Usyk, ladies and gentlemen. Now, again, the real question is he going to, again, say, hey, be that Joshua Ruiz Jr. I got next? I would favor him over Ruiz Jr., quite frankly, at this point. Ruiz Jr. has good hands and is really good about hitting. This is one of the things he used to kind of when he beat Joshua. When he would punch on the break of a clinch, and you can do that as long as it's not the referee breaking the clinch.
Did we ever find out what in the hell was wrong with Anthony Joshua that night? We speculated he was on drugs, which was wildly inappropriate of us, but boy...
No, hold on. It was wildly speculative. I'm not sure about inappropriate. He did an interview, basically, where he says he just didn't take Ruiz Jr. seriously.
And that was a replacement fighter, wasn't he?
I think so.
I think he was supposed to fight somebody else, and that was another one where there was an injury or whatever, and they got Andy Ruiz Jr. and it was like, oh my God, because I remember they were calling him Mexican Rocky, because that was the Rocky story.
Yeah, and good. Again, I said if Witherspoon went through another round like that, they should stop it. Good on his corner. His right eye is swelling up. You can see when you get some of the close-ups on Witherspoon's face.
Mm-hmm.
Just that tide is not turning. There's no point in you guys taking more abuse.
Right.
It's okay. Be done with that.
He's not defending a high-level championship here. He was here as a replacement fighter. They got over the hump. They got midway through the fight. Yeah, you're right. There's no sense in further incurring damage. So what did you think of Oleksandr Usyk in his heavyweight debut against journeyman fighter Chazz Witherspoon?
Well, a lot of the things that made him a good cruiserweight are translating. They're just translating in different ways. He's very fleet of foot. He was a lot faster and more mobile than a lot of cruiserweights. Good hand speed. This showed a level of discipline that I don't want to say he never showed before, but it's reassuring to see it when he's going to be fighting guys who are bigger than he is.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really going to be a marauder, going up in weight from cruiserweight to heavyweight necessarily. Not to say that he was just a marauder beforehand, mind you. But you do want to see when you start fighting guys bigger than you, do you have the discipline? Do you have the wherewithal to make the necessary adjustments? And the same is true when you start going down in weight. How are you going to deal with guys who are generally faster? How are you going to deal with increased technique versus kind of raw power? So I'm excited. Again, I like Usyk. I've enjoyed some of his work for a while, and this was a good enough showcase for him, all things considered.
After Tyson Fury is done getting these hands,
that's not funny.
Sure it is. I'm curious how a fight between the herky-jerky, unorthodox Tyson Fury would be against a technical, lighter, slightly smaller fighter, Oleksandr Usyk.
I think Usyk would struggle with Fury just due to the sheer size discrepancy he'd be at. Usyk is not a small man by most measurements, but we're moving up to heavyweight, and Tyson Fury is a giant. Tyson Fury is, 6'8"?
Something like that, yeah. Has
over 80 inches of reach. I forget exactly what his reach measurement was, 86 inches.
I think that's what make the fight fun, because, now Oleksandr Usyk has to deal with, this large man, but also a guy who's so unorthodox. So if he's a creative enough out-of-the-box thinker as a boxer, I'd be curious to see what machinations he could come up with to give Fury fits.
I agree. I think that would be a decent enough fight. We're going to get Fury and Wilder next year, first quarter, I think.
Assuming Wilder gets by Ortiz.
Even if he doesn't, I think they're still going to make that fight.
It's entirely possible. All right. Well, that's it. That wraps up our coverage of Oleksandr Usyk versus Chazz Witherspoon. It was a decent fight, good showcase for Mr. Usyk, and I'm not unhappy that I watched it, given all the things there were to watch tonight. My options were Game Changer Wrestling or Ring of Honor.
No one watches Ring of Honor.
Poor Larry Zonka's watching Ring of Honor, I'll have you know, sir.
He's the only one, and he is suffering for our sins.
All right. This week...
I mean, look, I don't even know why Larry watches it anymore. I imagine it just draws traffic, but... Because that poor promotion. They're just in such a bad spot. And some of it's not, some of it's on them and their decisions. Some of it's not. Some of it's just bad luck and bad timing. They lost their main event scene and the guys they were grooming to move into the main event scene to two rival promotions, that being WWE and AEW, within the space of about 3 months of each other.
All right. This week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, it's John Constantine all the time, all day, every day. We've got Hellblazer, Dangerous Habits. We've got a TV party for the former NBC one-season series, Constantine. We've got Baby Metal, Metal Galaxy. And then finally, on October 17th, we'll be doing an on-trial for Constantine, the movie starring Keanu Reeves.
Boy, that's a bad movie.
There's no fight coverage this weekend. Friday night, I'm going to the movies more than likely. And then Saturday night's Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 8 between Bigfoot Silva and Gabriel Gonzaga. I will be home alone with no pants watching it by myself, and no one will watch it with me, but that's fine. I'm okay with that.
You will not only will you be the only person watching it in your house or in your network, you will be one of 3 people in the world watching that atrocity.
I'm going to love every minute of it.
No, you're not. One of them's going to pull out before the fight.
Oh, shut your whore mouth. Last week
He reviewed that Gabriel Gonzaga has the itis.
Last week we reviewed Joker by Brian Azzarello. We did almost a 3-hour review of the Joker movie from Damn You Hollywood, which like everybody and their mother around me has seen. Like every conversation that at work around me has started with, "Have you seen Joker yet?" So quite the popular movie. We reviewed the best album of the year, bar none. 11 out of 10, says the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Steel Panther, Heavy Metal Rules. We also reviewed the atrocity that was Hell in the Cell, me and the two Chris's.
Hang on. That was not... It was pretty bad. Okay, hang on. Let me say. When you say atrocity, that's kind of like, okay, it wasn't that bad. It was the worst wrestling pay-per-view of the year.
I had a friend of mine who once read one of my screenplays and described it as it was like having the best sex he's ever had, except at the very last minute, right before he was about to finish, the girl said, "Yuck, get off me." That was Hell in the Cell, everybody.
That's also not accurate.
Well,
hang on. Which is just to say, the notion that everything prior to the main event of that card was great is deeply inaccurate.
Well, it wasn't. No, it started off good, and there were a few good matches in between. But then, yeah, a lot of it was a lot of blah and meh. Anyway,
yeah, a lot of that. And then again, the way they booked the main event was just, oh god, what a catastrophe.
Like if the main event had been Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus the Godwins, I've decided that's who they are. Don't
wow.
Just listen to the review.
I did hear a few people say, if they just reversed the order of the cell matches, so
right.
Rollins and Bray Wyatt open the pay-per-view and Becky and Sasha close it, not everyone is nearly that pissed.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with this. If the Hell in the Cell between Rollins and Bray Wyatt doesn't even happen, and the show ends with Becky and Sasha or Roman, Daniel and the Godwins, it's fine. It's not the worst. It's not the worst WWE pay-per-view this year. That was Stomping Grounds. So
wait, wasn't Stomping Grounds last year?
No, whatever the one, it was Stomping Grounds earlier this year that nobody showed up for.
Okay.
Drizzling shit attendance. Anyway, myself and Jesse Starcher decided to bastardize the British accent and everything that got in our way as we reviewed the Pennyworth show.
Look, speaking of bastardization, that show exists.
It does.
It's not a good show.
So that's what we've got going on there and what we will be doing. If you are into our fight coverage and you're wondering, well, when are we going to do it all again? The next one, I believe. Now, there's some good stuff coming up on the 26th, and I know your Maya versus Aspen show, I think, is during the day, isn't it? Yeah, it's in the morning.
Yeah, it's a Singapore card emanating from Singapore, broadcast on ESPN Plus, where I imagine they will accommodate the local time zone for that rather than the U.S.
So we've got Lubin versus Gosha on Showtime, which is a PBC card. And we've got Shakur Stevenson versus Joette Gonzalez on ESPN.
That all sounds terrible.
Well, if you're interested in doing one of those, then maybe we'll do one of them Saturday the 26th. But for sure, in theory, you and I will be doing Masvidal versus Diaz, UFC 244.
That is still the
2nd.
plan.
That is the same night as the Canelo fight.
Yeah, but who cares? We all know what's happening there.
Maybe we'll be lucky, and because these things haven't. Some of these cards have lined up where like one ends just as like one main event beginning. That's what happened tonight. That's how we were able to salvage this show. So maybe we'll be lucky, and the match for the Bad Motherfucker Championship of the World will end, and we'll end just in time for us to catch Canelo versus Levinchenko. No, not Levinchenko. Kovalev.
Yeah, no. Yeah, look.
Kovalev.
Yeah. Do I have to say it? I don't know why we're bothering to watch that fight. We all know what's going to happen. Spoiler, Canelo wins.
All right, what are you doing in the world?
Oh, trying to find purpose.
I gave you purpose.
No, you gave me things.
We should all have a purpose-driven life.
That's certainly one way to look at life, I suppose. I just finished coverage for UFC on ESPN Plus 19, which you can find in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. So go over there, say hi, give it a read. I have gifs of finishes, a few highlights, my round-by-round description, etc., 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 etc. So check it out. There were some good finishes, a couple of gnarly knockouts. One fight that really should have ended earlier. I mentioned before, this on paper is a decent enough night of fights, and in practice it was a decent night of fights. I have very little to complain about. So you can check that out. This Sunday, most Sundays, I am the host of the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. This week we'll review UFC on ESPN Plus 19 and preview the UFC event on ESPN. This is UFC on ESPN 6 for next Saturday. Former middleweight champion Chris Weidman moving up to light heavyweight, facing undefeated rising contender Dominic Reyes. The rebooked fight between Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens is set for the co-main event of that card.
Oh, hopefully nobody get poked in the eye this time.
Somebody's getting poked in the eye. Or kicked in the dick. That's just what's going to happen.
Wouldn't it be funny if Jeremy Stevens just starts off the fight and directly pokes him in the eye and says, "How's receipt, motherfucker?" and I got to rebook it a third time?
I'd do it. I'd take the DQ and just do it.
Boxing Esquire. Funny to listen to the DAZN announcers dissing Usyk a bit because he started slow and was methodical. Have they not seen him fight before? He usually starts slow and takes a few rounds to let his hands go. He gradually picks it up. Looked like a typical Usyk fight to me.
Yeah. Look, are we taking DAZN's boxing commentary team seriously? Because we shouldn't if we are.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look, if you want to, I can't stop you, okay?
No. We do these commentaries, and I turn the volume down. So clearly, I'm not taking it seriously.
So again, this Sunday we'll have that review and preview along with news of the week. We talked a little bit last week about Cain Velasquez retiring. Now that it's more official, we might talk a little bit more about it. Really slow news week, all things considered. We devoted a fair bit of time last week to Michael Bisping fighting with a fake eye for 11 fights. Not a joke. That absolute mad lad, apparently, lost his eye not long after the Belfort fight and just kept fighting while hiding a fake eye from commissions. I don't know how he did it. In fact, if you ask him, his response is just mind your business. But he did. And you know what? Athletic commission, sanctioning bodies, I hate all of you, and I have for a long time because you don't actually do your damn jobs. I wish this was Exhibit A in my prosecution of their existence, but Michael Bisping is not Exhibit A when it comes to the catastrophic failure of regulatory bodies in combat sports.
Okay.
So you can listen to us talk about that. Again, this week we'll have that review and preview. And next Saturday I'll have coverage of UFC on ESPN 6. It's, again, Dominic Reyes and Chris Weidman in the main event. They're at the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. And you'll notice that I, unlike certain other people associated with the UFC, do not affect a Bostonian accent to say "God" just to try and sound like a jackass.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network alternative commentary for Oleksandr Usyk versus Chazz Witherspoon. I appreciate Robert Winfree for tagging in and joining me at the ta-da last second. Be well, be safe, and behave.